Hello, welcome to another bonus video. In this one, we're going to be talking about the movie Alien, we're going to be talking about Rebel Without a Cause, and we're going to be talking about why my glasses look like this. So let's get the glasses thing out of the way first. It's been so cold in Seattle that I came indoors from being outside in the cold for a while, put my glasses down, and the bridge just snapped. So new frames are coming in a few days, but until then, I'm just going to be doing this kind of fashion look for you to hold them together with tape and armature wire. So that's that. Let's dive into some of the bonus video stuff. Quick housekeeping note, I've added a whole bunch of new tags to the post that's the index of all the different bonus video topics you can browse. So check out that post for some new tags, including Pee Wee Herman, Clark Gable, Spencer Tracy. And also, by the way, that post that has like the index of all the bonus video topics, Patreon just did an update to their app that can no longer, it doesn't work anymore on the Patreon app, but if you switch to the web view, it should work just fine. We're working on a fix. Patreon's working on fixing that in the app. I'm working on switching from those kinds of links to a different kind of link that hopefully should work a little better. So it should work fine for you soon. Just letting you know, if you're using the Patreon app, those index links don't work. But go to the web view and it'll work just fine. So let's get into the bonus video stuff. We're going to be talking about the movie Alien and a little bit Aliens, and we're going to be talking about the movie Rebel Without a Cause. Alien is connected to my most recent video about Straight Jacket because both movies have the wonderful actress Veronica Cartwright in them. In Straight Jacket, she plays the tough-talking agent, and in Alien, she plays one of the crew members on the ship. And it was pointed out to me during the live stream prior to the premiere of my new video about Straight Jacket. Someone pointed out to me that Veronica Cartwright's character in Alien is, and I'm going to use careful language here to try to avoid spoilers and also to be accurate, the character has signals that the audience could interpret as meaning that the character is trans. Now, the reason that I'm being so cautious and guarded with my language is because the movies themselves use rather imprecise language around that aspect of the character. And specifically what we get is, so first, Veronica Cartwright appears in Alien, then there's some information about her in Aliens, the sequel, and that information is that her character is, and this is a quote from the film, convert at birth, male to female, convert at birth, male to female. There's also some language about the alteration of gender having occurred prior to the character's birth, or just at the character's birth. So maybe you see why I'm being careful not to say, like, really definitively, oh, that means that character is trans, because that's not exactly how we use that word, the idea of being transgender today. Because that language in the film suggests that it was a deliberate choice that was made to change this person's gender while they were either while they were a fetus or immediately upon their delivery. Either a decision made by parents or a decision made by forces outside the family. So it has been speculated that, oh, perhaps these movies occur in a future where parents choose their gender for their children. Not like that doesn't happen today, but a future where parents opt for surgical interventions for their children to determine the child's gender while the child is either pre-birth or just post-birth. Or perhaps this is some sort of dystopian thing where there's some kind of breeding law and there's some sort of government or quasi-governmental intervention that says, oh, there's too many of this gender, we need more of this gender, and so you are therefore required to alter your child's gender. Either way, obviously that's not great. To have some external forces imposing gender on you is a experience that I think is very understandably uncomfortable. And it's also just not how we talk about transgender people, or transgender experience being one where a person self-determines, a person self-identifies, and they are insistent, persistent, and consistent in articulating the gender that they are. And something that this makes me think of, this terminology of convert at birth, suggesting that something that is imposed on a person from without, something that makes me think of is why terminology-wise today we use the word transgender, and we really look askance at using the word transgendered. You'd say this person is transgender, not this person is transgendered. And I think, strangely, Alien and Aliens kind of illustrate why. It's because this idea of gender being imposed, or a person being transgender is something that was imposed upon them, is just not accurate. You know, we all, to some extent, have gender imposed upon us. We are all gendered by society or other factors. You know, and today we say, when we describe someone as transgender, someone describes themselves as transgender, it's because it is something that they have elected to articulate their gender, not that it's been imposed on them. You know, transgendered suggests that it was something that was done to them, or it was an action in the past. And you wouldn't say, you know, that person is African American, or that person is Jewish, or that person is gay. You know, basically what I'm saying is it's not an action that was committed on you at some point in the past, as seems to be the case with Veronica Cartwright's character in Alien. So anyway, there you have it. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that terminology, and also the decision to make Nancy Cartwright's character, no, Veronica, good grief, Veronica Cartwright's character, a convert, whatever that means in the world of Alien and Aliens. It's not really explored. It's a concept that's kind of tossed off as a background thing. So, you know, curious to hear your speculation about what it all means. And I promise in the future, I will do everything I can not to confuse Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson, with Veronica Cartwright from Straight Jacket and Alien and The Birds and Will and Grace and a million other things. All right, let's move on to Rebel, which is the topic of my next YouTube video. Rebel Without a Cause. I'm really excited to talk to you about this film because, for one thing, I just think it's an amazing, groundbreaking, incredible movie, and it really deserving of our attention, in part because it has what has been described as cinema's first gay teen. Now, it's a complicated idea, and we're going to be unpacking that a little bit more in future videos. But I want to drill down, and in case you're not familiar with Rebel Without a Cause, it's this movie, 1955, about teen alienation. We've got three main characters, each of them sort of estranged from society, each of them teenagers who are feeling like outcasts in different ways and for different reasons. They find each other, they come together, and discover that although they feel as though they are unlovable, that they are unloved and incapable of being loved, they discover to their amazement that that is actually not true, that they can love each other. That these outcasts, when they find each other, can form a little chosen family. And maybe you're seeing why this is of interest to me and what is queer about this movie. Oh, but we haven't even begun to talk about what is queer about Rebel Without a Cause. Now, I got a lot more research to do on that front, but what I want to share with you is a very fun story about the casting of James Dean. Obviously, this is one of the most iconic roles in the history of film. James Dean in that rebel look with, the jacket of his coat, that red jacket, the collar of his red jacket turned up, sulky and not wearing his glasses in this movie, but, with the cigarette dangling from his lips, a real icon. But it was really questionable whether he was ever going to be in this movie. The director, Nick Ray, really wanted James Dean for this part. He was really insistent that it be James Dean, and launched a lengthy, months-long process of essentially courting James Dean. It was sort of, like wooing him to be in his movie. And it began in the fall of '54 with meetings and Nick Ray inviting James Dean to comment on the script and submit his suggestions, and improvising scenes that they could do, and taking him out to dinner, and like all these big things to try to get James Dean on this film. There's an amazing scene that's recounted in a great book about the movie called Live Fast, Die Young, which is kind of confusing because that's the title of a different movie, but oh well, whatever, never mind. There's this book, Live Fast, Die Young, that recounts an incredible story where Nick Ray, the director, was living at the Chateau Marmont, which is this iconic and in some ways notorious hotel in Hollywood. James Dean knows that Nick Ray really wants him for his film, and one night, in the middle of the night, James Dean just shows up with two friends in tow. And the friends are it's amazing, the company that he's keeping. One of them is this guy, Jack Simmons. Now, Jack is he may have been James Dean's boyfriend. They certainly lived together. They spent a lot of time together. They were very emotionally close. There's a lot of speculation about the nature of that relationship. And it's, from what I've seen so far, hard to say definitively they were in love, they were dating, they were having sex, whatever their situation was. There's no real smoking gun that I've found yet. So he's there with Jack Simmons, his maybe boyfriend, and his other friend, Vampira. Yes, that's right. The horror icon Vampira. Apparently James Dean was good friends with her in the 1950s, and he and his boyfriend would hang out with Vampira, and oh my god, to be a fly on the wall of any of the conversations that they were having. Anyway, the three of them show up at Nick Ray's bungalow at the chateau, and James Dean basically just teases him for a little while. He teases Nick Ray about how old he is. James Dean at this point is, 23 or so, and Nick Ray is in his 40s, I believe. And so James Dean just kind of needles him about how, oh, you're middle-aged and I'm young and I'm the future and you're the past, and then departs with his extremely bizarre entourage. So there's this kind of cat and mouse game that follows for weeks and then months of Nick Ray still trying to get James into his film. And then finally, this night comes. They're in New York, and it's, I want to say, December of '54. The film starts shooting very soon. March of '55 is when the filming began, I believe, March 25th. And so they've had this meeting in New York, an Italian restaurant, and Nick Ray, the director, can sense that James Dean is feeling vulnerable and tense. He's a little antsy, he's edgy, he seems like he's ready to come out and say something, like he wants to open up. He wants to be vulnerable and say what Nick assumes is something honest about the film and their collaboration, what their, this budding relationship between actor and director, what it all means to him. And so eventually, towards the end of the dinner, James Dean leans in and, Nick leans in to listen, and James Dean looks at him and he says, "I got crabs. What do I do?" Not exactly what Nick Ray was hoping to hear, but he at least knew what to do. He took him to a drugstore, they got some treatment, and that was taken care of. And not long after, James Dean agreed to be in Rebel Without a Cause. And I'm certainly not saying that James Dean's crabs are the reason that he appeared in Rebel Without a Cause, but oh my goodness, what a way to cast a movie. So anyway, that is but one very entertaining story about the making of Rebel Without a Cause. Now, when it comes to James Dean and Jack Simmons' relationship, I'm still digging on that. If you have any particular information about James Dean's actually numerous rumored same-sex relationships, please send it my way. I'm really in the thick of the research for that right now. I will say there is one really interesting artifact of James Dean and Jack Simmons' relationship, which is that they appeared together in a television program. It was like one of those Ford Playhouse theaters, or one of those kinds of things where it's an anthology series and it's a half-hour little story, and this particular story is about James Dean and Jack Simmons' characters are young hoodlums. They're young tough criminals, and one of them has been shot, and they go to a doctor's house. The doctor is played by Ronald Reagan, so it is an astonishingly on-the-nose depiction of the generational differences between the silent generation not quite getting the up-and-coming youth of the essentially the baby boom generation. Really interesting program to see James Dean and Ronald Reagan together with James Dean's maybe boyfriend. Now, of course, there's also a lot of queer energy around Sal Mineo, both in the film and in particular in real life. I'm also digging a little more deeply into that. So if you've got anything about anything about Sal Mineo, please send that my way as well. I will say there's a great quote where Sal talks about how at the time that they made Rebel, he was, I believe, 16 years old. And he says, in retrospect, Sal Mineo said years later that he was in love with James Dean and just didn't realize it at the time. And I will say, if you look at the black and white screen tests, I could have told you the way that Sal looks at James Dean and the way that James Dean is very physically close with him. I think it's very clear that these two guys, at the very least, had quite a rapport. So lots more to come on that front. Can't wait to show you more of that stuff coming your way in, what month are we in? February. That video will be coming your way in February. So stay tuned. In the meantime, thank you again for all your support here on Patreon, and I'll see you at Fleckman's.
Welcome to Fleckman's Hotel and Day Camp Filtered Food.
Excuse me, Miss Fleckman.
Ivan Boski, Vander Fluven, Hooven, Meister Garben, Gerben Fleckman.
That's the loss.
I just love happy endings.
Still whining.
How queer.
This is an outrage.
What?
It's called, oomph.
Are you not? Is he, honey? I don't know.
Oh, my.
Did someone call for General Washington?
That's not wonderful.
Well, he sat on my face again.
So the one-legged jockey said, "Don't worry about me, baby. I ride side saddle."
That I'll take them all.
Very good.
Fill it up. What? Tits. You're the imposter. We all know it. Case closed.
That kid gets no tip.
What's the matter, Margaret? Jack Frost nipping at your nose?
Look, why don't we cut out all this subterfuge? I know your angle. I wish I knew yours.
Great job, Maurice. Sorry if the guys in reproduction have been riding your tail.
Well, I'm not.
Excuse me, madam, are you referring to me?
I am not a lesbian.
Yes, and Agnes Moorehead is just a tomboy.
Just keep still.